Put your paws up, listeners, because you were born this way. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Cory.
And this week we will be discussing Lady Gaga's 2011 album, Born This Way. It was selected by you all in our poll this month. And yeah, what an album we picked to discuss. This is definitely one of the more beloved albums, I would say, of the 21st century. And our second endeavor into Lady Gaga.
Yeah, we give you guys, like I said before, we give you guys the tough choices that we don't want to make.
Yep.
And you guys always come through with good choices. This was an awesome pick. And you had your work cut out for you with those four. This is a good one.
Yes. And a lot to discuss with this one. But, and with that being said, I'm kind of just ready to get into it because, yeah, this is something we were both around for when this came out, 2011.
Yeah.
So background. So unless you were living under a rock, you knew who Lady Gaga was by that point. She was pretty inescapable throughout 2009 and 2010. She was the dominant pop star of that time. Everybody knew her. Everybody talked about her. And that year at the VMAs in 2010, she made headlines for wearing a dress made of raw meat. And while accepting her award, she announced that her next album and single would be called Born This Way, and sang a bit of the title track. And a bit of that was overshadowed by the meat dress, of course, but it was okay. She's going to be following up an insanely successful debut era with The Fame, and then the continuation EP, The Fame Monster, 7 hits in a row. And it was automatically a highly anticipated project just because of that.
That's so crazy. I was just about to ask you if you thought this was where she started to get away from the meat dress stuff, but she announced this in the meat dress. So she was still a polarizing avant-garde artist in my eyes back then. She was super avant-garde, like she was in your face for a purpose.
Yeah.
And that purpose was to shock you, in my opinion.
Yes, it definitely, that was the purpose. And she succeeded at it. And she wasn't done yet, as we would learn. But so at this point in time, I disclosed before that when I first heard of her, I was not a fan of Lady Gaga. I wasn't here for that just in your face trying to shock me. It's like, you're saying this is high art. I know you're just trying to shock me. I just thought it was a bunch of bull.
I have to agree with you. It's not that I had a problem with her, but I respected the avant-gardeness of what she was doing for what it was worth. But I don't really respond well, or I didn't respond well to her, as it felt more crammed down your throat and like thought out. It just didn't feel natural to me. So I wasn't a big fan of hers in the get. Now, fast forward to now, not because of listening to this, but because of what she's done throughout her career as an artist. I have a huge respect for her in so many different ways. I don't know if our listeners know, but I have a super soft spot in my heart for what she did with Tony Bennett. And for me, that's when her and I really became good friends, is the Tony Bennett stuff.
Yeah, and it was fine for me. I actually really hated it a lot. And I look at my Facebook memories, it at times looks like a Lady Gaga hate account. Because that was what I was doing at that point in time. But so I was like, oh, she's gonna be back for more. Oh, fuck. That was my initial reaction. But a lot of people were looking forward to it, a lot of my classmates, and I was going to hear about it either way because it was the new Lady Gaga release. And we'll talk more about the individual songs when we get to them because the lead single is its own bag of worms. That we'll get into it. But anyway, yeah, there was a pretty high build up to the album with a lead single and promotional singles too. It was a big deal. It was definitely being hyped up. And in its first week, the album was being sold to start off. You could buy it for 99 cents on Amazon. And I feel that's important to note because that did obviously drive sales up a bit because this album did debut in May of 2011 with over 1 million units sold first week.
I didn't see that. That's a wild take. 99 cents, huh?
Yeah, but enough people wanted to buy it. I think Amazon might have crashed. So
there you go.
That's something. But I remember there was news at the time saying like, oh, it was the biggest sales dropped from first to second week ever. And I was like, oh, good, she's going down because I wasn't a fan.
Heard.
But then that record was broken the next year by Madonna. And I was like, oh, but I like Madonna. Fuck. But
do you think it had a lot to do with that price point? Or do you think everybody who was going to buy it bought it already?
I think it was a bit of both.
Yeah.
But it was still number one for the second week. This was still a big deal. What I think is pretty interesting is about this album, what I was thinking of was it's like at a different point in time, this automatically would have been the pop album of the year.
Heard.
But Katy Perry was deep into the Teenage Dream era and making hit after hit. And she was on that level, and then Adele broke through really big this year, and no one else stood a chance against that because she was an alternative to the Gagas and Keshas and Katie's of the world, and an attractive one, and she outdid them all. It's like if it weren't for Adele, this might have just been it, you know? But it wasn't. But it was still big, but I definitely remember her presence didn't seem as all-consuming to the general public, at least during this era, as it was in the previous one.
Yeah, that's where my question was coming from. In my mind, at this point, she had lost a little bit of that shock value. It's interesting the way you put it because she was that contrast to Perry and that, I'll use the word teeny bop movement, you know, that very teen mindset of the pop music that was going on. Like I said, at this point, she really started to be a little bit normal in my eyes. Then again, I'm terrible with years and timelines, but when I listened to this, I think for the first time, which probably wasn't on release, it was more of a normal Gaga already in my mind.
Yeah, I remember like the singles from the album being in rotation, and I thought, oh, she is a bit normal, but looking back at it, I'm seeing she wasn't entirely trying to be. It just didn't stick the landing to everybody in the same way because I think people were kind of over it.
Yeah.
And she didn't learn that lesson immediately, but she did eventually, like, okay, maybe I need to just like do something different. But that's what made her career interesting, I think.
Yeah, her career is super interesting. I mean, if you look at the video that we looked at back when we were doing House of the Holy and her in a small little club with a 4-piece band looking as normal as, I won't say plain Jane, she's a beautiful lady, but you couldn't tell that was Gaga if you just walked by her on the street, to where she came from and hit that avant-garde scene. I think that had to be a very on-purpose choice of hers to push her into the public eye. I talk a little bit about that with a lot of the artists that we do. I always go back to John Mayer on this bit. It's the one that's nearest and dearest. But we look at the way Harry did it, or just these transformations from, all right, you know what? I did it the way I thought I had to do it to get into the public eye, or the way that it fit in what just, you know, the way that the universe guided me. But once these artists that we're still talking about, once they got to this comfortable status of them inside of the music making machine, we see them open up into another person, another artist, or a truer artist was where I was going there, you know?
I get what you're saying, but I do think it's important to note about Lady Gaga, even though she made some detours and doing different things like a jazz album with Tony Bennett or two.
Heard.
The avant-garde hasn't left its return, because she definitely went back to that imagery with the Chromatica album and its tour and videos for sure.
That's true.
So it hasn't left. Like, she has brought it back, but I think it's one of those things. I think that she's shown I can do both.
That's a great way to put it. I didn't even think about it like that, but yeah, that is true.
We even see some hints of that on this album, fun enough. But yeah, this was actually the era. A few of the singles off the album, I was not averse to their charms. I had that, you know, this is a good song. I'll give her that. She was cracking at me, not gonna lie. And it wasn't even before that the songs before were bad. It was just I didn't like all the outrageousness of it all. I'm like, we don't need all this stuff here. And that's what really drove me nuts about it. And trying to pass it off as edgy and original when it wasn't always also really bothered me.
Yeah, I'm right with you on that.
And I think we're not the only ones who've had this kind of feeling about Lady Gaga. I think a lot of people have had a complicated relationship with her art and music and just how she does things, but it makes her always interesting to talk about.
That is truth.
That's why she's one of my favorite people to talk about, because, like, whether I agree with her artistic decisions or not, it's discussion worthy.
Yep, you can't take interesting away from Lady Gaga.
No, you cannot. And what's interesting, though, is as even though this album wasn't quite as all-consuming as The Fame and the Fame Monster in terms of popularity, this is a cult album in a lot of ways. There is a huge cult surrounding this album. It really seems to have, over time, there have been just, it spoke to people who felt they didn't have that voice, it seems, and they really gravitated to this. And this seems to be the one a lot of people go to and say, this is her best album, her magnum opus. So, like, even though The Fame was the biggest, this is the best to a lot of people.
It's not that that's surprising, because I can feel it and I can see it throughout this album, but a lot of the criticism that this album got straight off the gate did not follow that. You know, there were a lot of music critics out there that were saying, it sort of feels rushed. It sort of feels like she wanted to please everybody. I'm paraphrasing quotes that ring true in my head, but there was definitely a side out there where the voices behind music criticism were like, I've seen her do better. And this was third album in, you know?
Yeah, and even people talking were like, I don't like her as much as I did when she first started. I remember a lot of that kind of talk too. It was like, I loved Poker Face, but I'm not here for this. And that talk would continue at times throughout the years, of course. But like now it seems to have been more of a consensus. Like I remember this album turning 10, there were all kinds of internet retrospectives about its impact. And it was named by Rolling Stone as one of their 500 greatest albums in their updated list, the only Gaga album on there. So its reputation seems to have changed a bit over time. It seems like people have warmed up to it over time, maybe, who didn't get it at first. And I also think this is one of those albums that, while it's flawed, you have to admire its bombast.
Right on with what you're saying here. Her as an artist, I love that she kept it in her pocket until 2021, that her major inspiration on this was Carl Bean, who was a gay Black religious activist who had done an album called, or a song, I Was Born This Way. And I feel like if she would have said that early on, it would have added almost like an insincere vibe to it, almost like she was pushing what was on here. Because in my opinion, that the gay religious activist inspiration sang through without telling people this. And I always thought it was cool. I always thought it was cool that she kept that in her pocket till 2 years ago, 2021, when she finally said that.
And that was smart of her, I would have to agree, because it was kind of like, it wasn't a subtle message. Let's just say that.
True.
But we're going to get more into that when we get to that song, because as I said, that's its whole other thing. But anyway, with that being said, I'm kind of ready to just get into this, because I think there's just a lot to say about it. Yeah, it's been very successful. It's sold over 5 million copies worldwide physically, and plenty of streams and individual track downloads as well. So
she got nominated for Album of the Year off this, right?
She did, yes. And Adele won. Nobody stood a chance against Adele.
that was my question. I didn't look it up. So Adele beat her out.
And I can't fault that. Even if my tune now has changed on Gaga, I can't fault that, because 21's incredible. I think Adele is incredible. But we're not here to talk about her today. I'm sure we will at some point in the future, but not today. Today it's going to be Gaga and Born This Way, a beloved album in its own right, even if it wasn't as huge as 21. So with that being said, let's get it started here.
Let's get it.
Inspired by the life of the savvy and ambitious Colombian businesswoman Griselda Blanco comes a new Netflix original limited series. Griselda tells the story of a devoted mother who, with her lethal blend of charm and relentless savagery, creates one of the most powerful cartels in history. Witness Sofia Vergara's captivating transformation into the godmother of the underworld. Griselda, streaming January 25th, only on Netflix.
So the album begins with a song called Marry the Night, and Gaga was actually inspired by herself on this song. She wanted to outdo her song Dance in the Dark from the famed Monster, and she described this song as Whitney Houston having a baby with Bruce Springsteen, which interesting comparison there, but it actually makes plenty of sense, I think. In a weird way, I think it makes sense, but lyrically, really, this song is all about how she loves New York and she lived there, and she really sees herself as that city girl, that New York Italian girl, and that really comes through in this song, I would say. And she further reflected it in the video for this song, actually, which was going back to her days as a starving artist. I thought it was a stupid video that was almost 15 minutes long. There was no need for that, of course. And that was, again, a thing that a lot of people weren't latching on to it. So this song was actually, it was supposed to be the first single at first, but then they decided, no, it'll be the third single, but that changed. It ended up being the fifth and final single. And, it wasn't the biggest hit. It made it to 29 on the Hot 100. I remember it getting some radio play, and I remember enjoying it, but I think it's a great opening track. It's just a great burst of energy, and I've always enjoyed it a lot. I wish it was a bigger hit, frankly.
Yeah, it's surprising that it wasn't. Like you said, great opener. I mean, it's upbeat, and it's neat to hear you say, or just hear in general, that she was inspired by herself, because immediately as a listener, we're exploring a lot of Gaga sounds that we've heard or we will hear, but it's very Gaga, undeniably doing her thing, her unique sound on this. I love the pipe organ incorporated with the synth pop. So cool. And that break at 340 is a neat break, because we get that electro square wave sound and it builds into the outro. The composition of the song is solid. And again, I'll repeat myself and you, a great opener. This is how you open an album.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I do like that she mentioned the Whitney Houston was listed as one of the main influences of the whole album. And I think that's actually pretty important, because this is an example where we really hear her singing, showing off her vocal pipes. And I think that was important for her to do here, because you wouldn't have necessarily gotten that she has this big old voice on her from her radio singles previously, certainly. I didn't think she was this remarkable vocalist with all this auto-tune on Poker Face, but here she's showing, oh no, I can sing my face off.
Yeah,
if I want to.
It was very important to me to take that away from her, in a sense, while I was listening, because I wanted to listen to this album. Like I always say, I try to put myself in the shoes of a first-time listener at least a couple of times throughout critically listening to this album. And we didn't know that up until this point. You're totally right. We didn't know that she had chops. And it's some early Gaga, in my opinion, it's very easy to be hard on critically as a music listener, because now what we know, what she has behind her. It's very easy, at least for me, to be like, come on, you got better than this. But at this point in time, we didn't know that.
Yeah, and she's really, in her own way, she's showing it off here while still making a dance pop album.
The Whitney stuff, didn't she call out Whitney Houston at a Grammys once? I wrote this song because when I wrote this song, I didn't believe that I was big enough of a star, so I always imagined you singing it. I could have swore that happened back in the day.
I don't remember that at all. If it did happen, I don't recall it.
I should have these notes ready now. That was just a thought that we were, as we were going, that came up in my head, but yeah, I can't remember what song it was. But at one point in the Grammys, I believe she came out and said that. Could be wrong. Let us know in the comments. Let us know
if this happened, please.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think the vocal is also, I think it was made clear. So for the 10th anniversary of the album, a few of the songs were covered, and Marry Tonight was done by Kylie Minogue, who I think is a great pop star, but she doesn't have Gaga's voice. And that's when you realize, okay, it was important that Lady Gaga could sing even on a dance song.
Yeah.
When I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, this isn't great. Not the best for Miss Kylie, but she's done better. But I will say the details aren't too fuzzy for the next song, I don't think, at least not for me, because this was a big deal when it happened. Our track number 2, the lead single and title track, Born This Way, which was, as I said earlier, teased at the 2010 VMAs, and it was released in February of 2011, a few months later, and yet, unsurprisingly, it debuted at number 1 on the Hot 100, and it was actually the 1000th song to debut at number 1 on the Hot 100. Yeah.
It was the 1000th song. That's so insane.
Yes, and yeah, it got a big push. You heard that this was happening. I remember Glee did a whole episode called Born This Way that was longer than usual. I did used to be a Gleek back in the day. I don't know if I could watch it now, knowing some of the stuff that I know now about what happened with some of the people, but at the time I was a Gleek.
This was inescapable, though. You're right. It was everywhere.
Yeah, and I remember at the time, it broke the record for most downloads sold for a debut week by a woman, and I was a little sad because it broke a record previously held not long earlier by Britney Spears and Hold It Against Me. So I didn't love that, but oh well, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Even though that's still a great song, I think, Hold It Against Me. But yeah, when I first heard the song, I thought it was more than anything, I thought it was kind of plotting. I felt like, okay, what is all this? And it's not subtle at all. And one thing that I remembered was, at this point in time in pop music, actually, the empowerment anthem was a trope. There were a lot of people doing songs like this. The biggest example was Katy Perry's Firework. And it was this kind of song to say, like, you're special even though you're an outcast. And you are you, be you, do whatever. But that Firework and some of these other songs, they're a bit more general in their lyrics. They're not specifically made for a particular audience. This one is. It's very clearly a gay pride anthem. I have mixed feelings about that, because on one hand, I don't think music should be exclusively made for one group of people, and I felt like this definitely was. But on the other hand, that was what she was going for, and it served its purpose for a lot of people, so...
See, that was my question to you. Was it really a queer anthem? You know, like, did she intend on... it's a tough one for me. It's a tough one for me. Because it's caught, and this is what we were talking about before, it's caught on so much as a cult album, period. And it makes people feel... You can see the correlation, yes, but I wonder if it was written for that purpose and that purpose only. Not in a negative way. I'm very curious about it.
I absolutely think it was, because, I mean, that was a huge segment of her fan base, and this was a big thing that she was building her platform on, was, I love the gays, I support gay rights, I support LGBT rights, and she's naming these, she's saying lesbian, transgender lives in the song. And
okay,
here's what I will say that's crazy about that, though. In a way, even though she had this large gay fan base, you're the biggest pop star in the world and you're going to put that in your lead single. That, in a way, that's actually pretty gutsy, and I have to admire that.
Yes.
Because undoubtedly that was going to piss off some people, but admittedly, if she did it now, it would probably get more flack, because we were in the Obama era, and things have changed since then. When it comes to this, because I think people are a lot more divisive and outspoken about not liking this kind of stuff now.
Or more so, in my opinion, more so the paradigm of thought, I would like to hope, has changed to a much more open and accepting mindset than even back in 2011. I could see where this has power. And if that was the intention, you're very correct on the point of the gutsiness of it. What a gutsy move. I just, and this is just me. I don't like to pigeonhole any music. We talk about this a lot, but it's like, I don't want any song to just be that, because in my opinion, art shouldn't be that. Art should be for anyone who is listening, looking, however you're getting this art. It should be for you, and you should be able to make connections on your own, which I'm not saying you can't. I just always wonder what's behind it,
I mean, that was my issue with this at the time, because I'm like, I think that's what she's doing here. But over time, my view has changed a bit. But before I get into how it's changed a bit, there is another thing that, well, actually, no, I'll say now how my views changed. For me, when this song really actually kind of took on another quality was when she did it at the Super Bowl. Because
that was a show, baby.
It was. And she was doing it in front of the biggest audience possible. She did this song, and a lot was made of the fact that she did this right in front of the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence.
Was it really? See,
yes.
This stuff is lost on me, but I hope it's just because of the openness I tried to go through with my mind. That never even, the thought never crossed my mind.
Well, it wasn't important at the time a statement to make, because this was a new administration, and Mike Pence is known for not having the most LGBTQ friendly policies. Let's just put it nicely that way.
Okay.
He's not popular amongst the community, and including myself. I'm not a fan of those policies either. I think they're really harmful. But for her to do that was her making a statement. I think she knew very well what she was doing to make that statement. And I've seen her live twice, and especially when I saw the Chromatica Ball tour, when she did this, it was just so darn powerful to hear this in a stadium.
Yeah.
And to start off doing it as a piano ballad and then to go into the full dance song. It was a truly incredible and moving moment.
It had to have been. Would you say that she has filled the shoes or taken the baton / torch from Madonna in having that voice moving forward? I'm asking the hard questions tonight, Charlie.
Okay. Here's what I will say. I don't agree with us saying that anybody's the next so-and-so, or I don't. It really bothered me when people said she's the next Madonna. There's one Madonna. I think we need to move away from saying, like, we can say this person's influenced by them. That's fine. But I don't think we should say anybody's the next anyone.
I'm more asking with her ability or her trying to, but now we'll say trying to when this album was released, putting ourselves in their shoes, but with her ability, the way Madonna was able to move, I'll use the paradigm of thought quote again, move this paradigm of thought of the populace through pop music. Do you think she's taken the torch in that way?
I would say that I think that she is of any pop star this century.
Heard.
I think that she has, I don't know how many minds she's changed about it. I would hope she has. But I don't think that anybody has spoken to the LGBTQ community in the same way that Lady Gaga has on a really wide scale.
Sure.
I don't think any other pop star this century has done that. And in that case, she is the one who's doing it. I think what makes Madonna different is that Madonna was doing some of these things in a pre-internet era.
Yeah.
And bringing this stuff to the mainstream when she was the one. And in Gaga's day, we have a lot more influences out there, but I don't think that any other pop star has connected with this fan base in the way that Lady Gaga has.
Heard. And Madonna springs forward for so many reasons, and we've talked about a few of them, but for me, the breakdown at 2 minutes and 40 seconds in the song really has a Madonna inspired feeling to me. I love this song, by the way. I haven't talked about my musical feelings for this song. I think it's I'll use the word genius in its composition, because it's a song about being your natural self. And it starts off with this intro that's really wide open. And again, I love her voice in this one as well. I mean, we get Gaga pipes here. But we get to the end of the song and she finishes it off with this a cappella outro with just claps. And for me, that's so perfect, or such a perfect fit for a song about oneself, because it's just that natural sound. I really do enjoy this one.
Okay, but you say the Madonna breakdown.
Yeah.
Are you not aware of the controversy?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
Is there hot tea that I just spilled by accident?
this had to be mentioned. It's very immediately when this song was released, I actually didn't immediately pick up on it, I think because of all the extra effects in the background, but a lot of people said this song sounds exactly the same as Madonna's Express Yourself.
I mean, that breakdown is at the very least inspired. I didn't know this was a real thing, by the way.
Oh,
this is true.
This was a big debate, and a lot of people gave her flack for it. They said, Gaga, you ripped Madonna off. You ripped Express Yourself off. And she said, like, I wasn't trying to pull one over on anybody. Like, and admittedly, she probably didn't. I think that melodies get lodged in our heads, and we unconsciously copy.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a copy. It's definitely inspired, but she came and said that Madonna was one of the inspirations on this album, didn't she? Springsteen, Houston, Madonna.
Well, yes, but here's the difference. So Madonna was always an inspiration. She said Madonna was one of her main inspirations when she started.
Heard.
So Madonna was actually asked about how she felt about Born This Way in an interview in 2012. And she said when she heard the song on the radio, it sounded familiar. And then she told Cynthia McFadden that she felt it was a little reductive.
Wow, it's so crazy. I didn't put the two and two together until you said Express Yourself out loud. But like singing it in my head while listening to you talk about it, I could see where people were going with some similarities, especially in the in a bunch of different places, actually. If you think about it now, was there ever a legal controversy on this as far as
no nobody sued, but yeah, it did sort of a bit of a Madonna Gaga feud. When Madonna went on her tour that year, she did Express Yourself and sang the chorus of Born This Way during it to show that she felt they were the same song.
Woo, man. Wow. Look at me spilling tea without even knowing it. No shit.
And then Madonna ended it by singing She's Not Me.
Get out of town.
Which is another song of hers. And it was like the shade Madonna threw doing that.
Okay. Wow.
But, I think Madonna and Gaga are friends again now. So
that's so wild. Everything that I've said about this song, or the questions that I've asked you, I had no prerequisite with this feud. I literally did not know that was part of it.
News. This was news for a while.
Heard that. Okay.
I'm surprised you didn't know. I was like, that's the elephant we had to discuss.
No, and the best part is that was just true questions coming right from the top of the head, but there, it hit it right on the mark.
I feel like that was the biggest controversy of this album.
Oof.
Actually, no, really, this was what I heard about this way more than any of the videos.
Well, some of my notes ring true throughout this album, but I literally didn't know that. I'm learning as we go, as we always do.
Yeah, but before we move on, this is the song that ties it into our doll month, because there was a Monster High doll made of Lady Gaga's zombie look in the music video for this.
Heard that.
And it was kind of an avant-garde video, but what I actually remember most people talking about was how she looked anorexic in it. And she did look really fit, actually. And she's talked about having an eating disorder at a time in her life since. So I'm like, oh, we might have been on to something. That's really sad.
Huh, that does suck.
Yeah, it does. But I don't think she's suffering with that now. I certainly hope not, because Yeah, it's just very sad to have an eating disorder. I'm glad I've never had one, because oh.
I heard that.
But enough about eating disorders. We're going to move on to a happier topic, government hookers. With our next song. I actually remember when I looked at the track listing for this album well before I listened to it, and I saw these song titles and I thought, well, this further confirms why she's terrible. Who the fuck writes a song called Government Hooker or Highway Unicorn? Like, these are stupid songs. Like, how can that be good? But funny story, I think it is good, actually. Government Hooker. And she recorded this song at the Palms in Las Vegas, which I think is just perfect, actually. I don't know why, but I do. And it's based on an unused demo that DJ White Shadow produced with DJ Snake. DJ White Shadow produced a lot of this album, actually. And it takes on a theme of sexual empowerment and references the affair of John F. Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
Because why not? Yeah, this one's different. It has an opera intro. And it definitely has that industrial club feel to it. That's the overall sound of this one. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. It was never a single, but it is a fan favorite. She actually included it on the set list of her Vegas residency.
This is a banger as far as like, here's my notes straight off the cut on this one. Industrial ? Exclamation point. Because I was like, wait a minute, Gaga's doing some like industrial stuff, and she touches on this throughout the album in hindsight. But then I wrote dark club banger. And that's what it screams. It has for me this sort of dominatrix / I've already said the industrial feel here. And I think that it's very Gaga of her to put it any which way, because it is complimenting and also contrasting this theme of this female sexuality empowerment throughout this song. Even why she talks about the Marilyn Monroe JFK thing, because she uses it as an example of that empowerment inside. So I thought it was a wild, a Gaga-esque take or choice to use this industrial dominatrix type of feel for it.
Yeah, this song is also, this is like pure camp theater that you're listening to here.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just the lyrics too. I mean, my favorite is, I can be mom if you want to be dad.
Yeah, she has some wild lyrics throughout this.
Oh, yes, she does. Yes, she does. In the past, I would have held it against her, but now I think it's just a fun time. And Government Hooker is a fun time, I think, too.
I'm paraphrasing, but inside of her talking about this album, she had said something akin to, I didn't want to hide the message behind lyrics that everybody had to pick through and try to figure out what it was. I was telling you straight up in a lot of these songs how I felt. And this one has a lot of that in it. There's not much, I mean, there's symbolism, but not much like hidden symbolism inside of Government Hooker.
No, and I also, she's playing this character in it, I think.
Yeah.
This Lady Gaga character.
Agreed.
And the characterizations continue with our next song when we go to the Bible. For Judas, this is a tune of betrayal, I would say. It was produced by Red One, who produced most of the hits off of The Fame and the Fame Monster, so it made sense that we'd call him back for the follow-up. And he knows how to make bangers, and this is another one. It was inspired by the tale of Judas Iscariot and falling in love with the wrong man repeatedly. This was actually the album's second single, and it made it to number 10 on the Hot 100, which does make it a hit, but at the time it was her least successful single. That wouldn't remain the case, but at the time it was. And of course, it opened itself up to some religious controversy. I remember my mom telling me, the Catholic Church is really upset about this Lady Gaga song, Judas. And the Catholic League condemned the video before its release, but they then said there was nothing blasphemous about it.
I'm glad they came to that realization. I really am, because if you know the tale of Judas Iscariot and are versed in that story period, you might think there's some blasphemy inside. There could be the propensity for some blasphemy inside of the song, but I don't find it. I find that using Judas as an example for the demons in your life and how you're trying to choose the right path and you keep getting drawn back to the Judas, again, as an example of those dark times, per se, I think that's pretty genius. I like that part of this song. I like the example, Judas as an example, and I'm glad that the Catholic League pulled back on the blasphemous sense, because I don't feel like it's there. I feel like it would have been a wasted move on their point to be like, no, just because it's named Judas.
Yes. I would agree. And yeah, when I first heard this, I thought it was like, I just thought it was annoying. Like, what's this? Judah. I was like, oh, that's just annoying to me. But yeah, now I think it's a banger. The beat goes hard. I mean, Red One is a great producer. He knows how to make a song slap, for lack of a better word. Like, you can tell this was meant to be a club banger, and he succeeds at doing that. I think almost all of his productions that I can think of, he knows how to do that, and he did it here.
Yeah, and this composition at 2:43, that breakdown is sick. Yeah, I love the spoken rant. It's really cool. I'm gonna go, maybe this is tea, maybe I might get some heat for this. My original notes for this, my first two notes were Poker Face ? Bad Romance ? Because this, really more so to Poker Face, this sings, and maybe it is the play on the Judah, but I can't bring the subconscious listener in me out of that. It always ends up like I start to do Poker Face while I'm listening to it, you know?
I mean, it's the same producer. I wouldn't, that's what it is. It's the same producer.
Yeah.
And when you're doing this kind of thing and you've had that kind of success, you're going to try repeating it. I mean, Bad Romance is a response to Poker Face, you could say. It's like, we're going to try doing it again. This didn't catch on as much, and it didn't really shock anybody. And one thing I will say, like, even the video's kind of like this motorcycle biblical kind of thing. Honestly, the most alarming thing about it is actually how thin she looks in the video.
Heard.
And yeah, there were, at this point in time, she tried to do some of this like Catholic imagery at times, like, and I think it really fell flat for her. Like, I just don't I think that it was like, Madonna did it, and obviously that was the influence. Let's not kid ourselves. Like, what else would it have been? But it's like, she did it and people remembered it. They're not going to forget the video for Like a Prayer.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just think that was one thing she tried to shock people with that just didn't catch on.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it didn't, because it just didn't work. It did feel kind of empty. It's like, yeah, this is just, you're just doing this just to do it. There's no statement behind it. Like, I think Madonna did it to shock people too, but I think people could at least see her statement behind the video in Like a Prayer too.
Yeah, this is the flip side to the coin of, I think it was a smart move not to say it, but if she would have cited Carl Bean and his activist work as an inspiration before, this might have stuck the landing, as you said before, because a lot of this doesn't stick the landing the way I think she intends it. You're right though, it ends up not being as memorable as any of that stuff. And I think for me, that mixed with and again, it might just be, but the subconscious listener aspect of it not pulling itself away enough from Poker Face as far as the composition, I feel like those are two reasons, or maybe the main reasons, why it didn't have so much popularity and success.
Yeah, I think to a lot of people might have sounded like she was treading water a bit.
Yeah.
But I still think it's a perfectly fun song on its own. And I mean, there are worse things you could do than make a song that sounds like Poker Face again. There's worse things you could do. I wouldn't say this is the best we've got on the album. It's not even the best red one on the album, but I think it does what it needs to do. I think they knew what they were doing, and they succeeded at making that kind of song here. They did.
They did.
They did. But we are going to do something that didn't sound like what we did before with our next song, which is Americano. This was inspired by a couple of laws, one being Proposition 8 and the other, I'm not remembering it, but it was a really harsh immigration law that happened in Arizona that Gaga really didn't like. And so she kind of wrote this song based on those struggles of these marginalized groups. And she doesn't hide that it's about Mexican immigrants because we hear this mariachi sound in the song. And I think that was cool to combine mariachi with a techno dance kind of beat. Gaga actually, her main influence, she said, for this was actually Edith Piaf, which was not something everybody would have predicted, but she's got a lot of that cabaret in her, which I think is part of what makes her such a versatile entertainer. This is one of those songs where there are a lot of elements of it that I like. It just doesn't add up all the way for me. This is that one for me. That's really where I am with it. I like her concept. I like her message. I think sometimes when she gets out of that, we talked about this even with Joanne when she did Angel Down. I think when she gets out of that straight empowerment vibe, it's very well-meaning, of course, but I don't think that kind of social commentary is what she's best at.
Heard. Yeah, I can agree with you there. I didn't realize that there was too much social commentary in this, but this song is undeniable on its way to draw me in with the mariachi guitar hidden in the back, with the subtle horns, the driving bass drum. It adds to the title, to the feel of the Americano meaning of the song. But there was a contrast in here that threw me for a loop because she sings Spanish, we do the mariachi, we do all that stuff, but this isn't documented anywhere. And I'm telling you, I'm on to something here.
Okay.
As a young Italian New Yorker, Lady Gaga had to be familiar with a song that was written by Bob Merrill back in the 50s for Rosemary Clooney, but found its biggest popularity with the one and only Dean Martin, and it's called Mambo Italiano. Okay, the starting to this song is straight cut out of Mambo Italiano. In Mambo Italiano, it goes, "A boy went back to Napoli because he missed the scenery, the native dances and the charming songs. But wait a minute, something's wrong." She cut it straight out of there. And a subconscious listener for me, it immediately drew me into this song. One, it was a different take than we've heard so far on this album, but it opened with Mambo Italiano. So I was like, let me listen to this. That contrast threw me a little bit when she got into the Spanish imagery and mariachi driven beat, which I don't hate. I love. In fact, I love this song. I really, really love this song.
Oh.
But I just thought that was something I wanted to put out there. It's nowhere. She doesn't cite it. It's I can't find anybody writing about it. But mark my words, if you're not familiar with the song Mambo Italiano, hey, Mambo. Anyway, that is straight out of there. And she knew it. She's a young Italian. She knew that song. So,
I'm sure she did.
Just a little tidbit there.
Yeah, I'm sure she did know the song. I think you are on to something there. But yeah, there's Americano for us. And but we are going to move from the 50s musically into the 80s with our next song, another Red One production, Hair. So this is another empowerment anthem. There's a lot of those on this album, if you can't already tell. But this one is about using your hair as a form of self-expression. And this song features none other than Clarence Clemons of the E Street Band playing the sax on it. And Lady Gaga said that she was also influenced by Kiss and Iron Maiden, which I do not hear at all in this song, but she won't admit Mambo Italiano, but she'll say that. I'm like, what? I'm not that familiar with Iron Maiden, but I get the gist, and this definitely doesn't. If this sounds like Kiss, it sounds like what? I Was Made for Loving You, baby. Like
she cited so many times saying that about this song, but I struggled. I can't find any ties here musically. It doesn't make sense for her to say that from me.
Yeah, because this is a straight up like dance pop song. But it's a good one, I think. I really enjoy this song a lot. I just really like its energy a lot. I love the sax, of course. And yeah, I've just always really enjoyed this song's energy. And it has that kind of autobiographical thing about it's like this, I'm staying against my parents and I just want to be accepted. Like I love that. I just want to be free. I just want to be me. I want lots of friends that invite me to their parties. Like, but I'm as free as my hair, and I've always really enjoyed this one. And it was a promo single before the album was released, and it made it to 12 on the Hot 100 because enough people bought it. Yeah, I think this is one though it's been forgotten the time, and I have not heard it either time I've seen her live. It doesn't look like she's done it since the tour for this album. Gaga, please put Hair in your set list if I'm at the show. Please, I would love to hear it.
There you go. This will be the first one on this album that we're on opposite sides. I don't hate this song, but for me, this it started to repeat sounds and vibes that we had heard already on this album, and not as well as the other examples. I'm a sax man. I've said it before, and I'm with you. But if you're gonna put Clarence Clemens from the E Street Band on this bad boy, why would you hide him so far in the background? It's just
he's not hidden.
He doesn't sing for me the way that Clarence sings in his natural way.
I hear him loud and clear. Oh my, what?
For me, this one, it just doesn't explore any sounds that we haven't heard yet. And the self narrative inside, I love the story through here. But as far as musically, this one just started to hit a repetitiveness inside the album for me.
I see what you're saying. The song is over 5 minutes long, so probably could have benefited from like a radio edit, honestly. Yeah. But I still enjoy it a lot. I want to hear it if I see her again, which I'm guessing you don't need to hear this in your Gaga set list. But
I don't need to hear this, but thank God Clarence came back out on this album later and killed it, because I was disappointed by the way they used him on this one. Gaga, come on.
Gosh darn it, Gaga. Yeah, I guess to you could say that's some shice. Which is our next song.
Yep, that's some serious shites right there.
Yes, and that's our next song, and it is German for shit. Yeah, by the way, she's not speaking real German here, actually. I don't believe.
It's not. It's faux German, but I love that.
Oh yeah. It's still a lot of fun, and this is an empowerment anthem for the ladies, and this very much gives me that 90s dance club feel, and this is a song, it's for a big space. Yep. Like, this is to fill the dance floor. It's meant to go off live. It's a fun song. I feel like it's kind of, because it's so meant for that big space, it feels a bit oddly placed on the album, I think. But I remember she actually did this when I saw her at the Joanne tour, because it's a fan favorite. And I mean, it fills that an arena. It's that kind of song. And it's a pretty known performance from the Born This Way tour, actually, because she really went hard in her choreography for this one, which, why wouldn't you? Like, this is definitely one of those songs that makes you want to get up on the floor and fist pump and just have a great time. But in the middle, I feel like it's more fitting for a DJ mix than an album, but I still love it.
Yeah, its placement, it's in my highly coveted 7 spot, but its placement lacks a little bit. It could be at a different place in this album, and I think you hit the nail right on the head. It would have filled the space more. That dancing and that inspiration comes from the inspiration from this song, or so I would hope, because they were recording this, or pieces of it, on the tour bus the day after partying in Germany at the club, and you can really feel that in this song. It's a very cool song. From the title, I thought it was going to be a throwaway song just for some odd reason, and I really love this. It's not only a very strong female song, I really love the beat, But I think my favorite thing in this song is the repeated use of the word I at the start of each stanza. And that I is echoed throughout the song in the music. I thought that was a really cool thought inside of the composition. Even though it wasn't placed where I think it should be inside this album, this is one of the tracks I really enjoyed.
Yep, I completely agree. And so do many others, as they should, because it's an awesome song. And now we are on to the album's current hit. Who knew it would have a current hit in 2023? But it does. The song's getting played on the radio. Bloody Mary. So this song is Bloody Mary is actually typically Mary Tudor. It is not in this song. It's we're going back to church. It's Mary Magdalene. Her explanation of this song is, quote, "The lyrics are Mary sort of talking. If you listen to the lyrics and the way the cadence goes, the way I'm actually singing, I start quite sweetly, then I go into these quite demonic tones. Then I come back to sweetness, and then the chorus is me ultimately publicly singing, I won't cry for you. I won't crucify the things you do. I won't cry for you when you're gone. I'll still be Bloody Mary. I'll still bleed is what I'm trying to say. I guess I'm fascinated by her. In my belief, Mary was in it all along. I think she knew what was going to happen, but I also believe that she loved him. And I believe there was a moment when she cried. So she says, I won't cry for you, but in the rest of the song, in the way that it feels, it's sad and it sounds like a death dirge. There's that kind of quality to it. It's about me having to be a superstar. End quote.
I feel like all that comes across. I think she did a really good job. This is one of the one that caught a lot of flack as far as varied religious groups throughout the world being up in arms about this album because of the depiction of Mary Magdalene here. I have to disagree. I think, especially after hearing that quote, that she hit the nail right on the head for what she wanted to do.
So here is my this is the hot tea take of the album for me. This is a beloved song by many. I've heard people call this her best song of all.
Before Wednesday.
Yes.
I'll here's a hot tea to add. I don't remember this song Before Wednesday. I didn't even know it was Gaga.
Yeah, Before Wednesday. She did this at the Joanne tour when I saw her. And it was a cool performance. She was dressed all in red for it. It was a cool performance. I think this is her most overrated song by a mile, honestly. And my issue with it is it's a cool concept. I don't find it offensive. And I also think that, like, these biblical stories, they are literature. I think we need to remember that as well. And we can interpret them in different ways if we want to. I don't think that's sacrilegious. My issue is I just don't think this song goes anywhere musically. It kind of stays in the same place for me the whole time. I don't think it's a coincidence. Well, that's the wrong word, I would say, but I'll say I think there's a reason that the version of this song that went viral was sped up for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
Because this just is kind of there. What I will say is that it is cool hearing it on the radio, I think. I've heard this on the radio. I'm like, it's kind of cool to hear this song. It does sound unique in that regard, but I just think it's kind of anemic musically, which is a shame for a song called Bloody Mary.
I agree with you there. And it was a question I was going to ask you because I couldn't find the answer. It definitely was sped up when they used it. Now, am I correct? They released this as a single this year?
Yes, they did.
When they released it as a single, did they release the sped up version or the original version?
Original.
Okay. So I'm with you. Hearing her say the death dirge, it makes sense, but this song doesn't move. It's a stagnant song that musically just doesn't really lend itself to anything. You know, it's I won't say filler because it's not a bad song, but it just stays still. I can see as the death dirge where her inspiration was. I love the Gregorian choir at the end. I think that's a cool addition. It added some, for me as a subconscious listener on that one, it added some church feel to it. But yeah, as far as this version, it just falls flat. I will say that whoever chose to use that for Wednesday, it was a pretty genius move.
Oh, I
because
agree.
I mean, it starts off with this tango sort of beat. And for me, that lends itself to the old Gomez and Morticia always doing the tango. And it has that dark vibe to it. It needed to be sped up, and it's a cool move there for the Wednesday thing. I just wanted to say that. But yeah, as on this album, definitely not my favorite. It falls flat in so many different ways.
I completely agree, but there's no taking it away now because it I'm sure we'll be hearing it again once they put out the second season of Wednesday.
My 3-year-old sings this song. Not word by word, but she knows the melody of it. The down, down, bow, bum, 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 bum. I've caught her singing it. Like, what? How you know that?
That damn TikTok.
That TikTok. You're going to get them every time.
But yeah, again, of all the songs off this album you could have made go viral, I don't think it should have been this one, but I'm in the minority on that.
I mean, it just makes sense with Wednesday.
It does, because she danced with her hands. So yeah, we're going to move away from dancing with our hands. But another religious title song here.
Here we go.
This is the first of the bonus tracks on the album. Interestingly, the bonus tracks are all put into the album sequencing and not just tacked on at the end.
Which for me doesn't make them bonus tracks. I'm just going to say it. I have to say it. Okay. It hurts me because we talk all the time about the flow of an album and the feel of an album. When I take these out of the album flow is a little bit off. I think they add to the flow of the album. I'm getting ahead of myself, but
I agree with you, actually. And I think this is a necessary thing after Bloody Mary, too. I think we needed something like this, for sure. Because this is, so this song was inspired by Gaga moving to New York when she was 19, downtown New York. And it's a 90s influenced house track. And she said it was inspired by how moving to New York really opened her eyes to different ideas than like that Catholic upbringing that she had been so put into, I guess you could say. Like, she went to Catholic school and all of that. Like, she was really raised as this Italian Catholic girl, and she was getting exposed to the world in a different way. And so she's thinking it's like, well, this kind of like this Black Jesus, it's a different thing. And she was getting into the fashion scene a bit. And the whole thing, it's like on the runway. She wants this to be the kind of song you strut down a runway to. But yeah, this was another one of those titles I thought, what the fuck kind of a title is this for a song? But it's a fun tune, actually. And sometimes I forget about it, but I'm glad that I remembered it again because it's a really fun song that I enjoy listening to, actually. I found myself really enjoying this one again.
Yeah, this is a great song. The composition for me on this one is a very high caliber of musicality. This one sings from the start to the end, but it really evolves inside of itself. It jumps back and forth from sound to sound. It really does well. Like I said, this being a bonus track, I couldn't imagine the album without it at this point, at the number 9 spot after Bloody Mary. It's a very strong song, and it works out well here. I really love this. Maybe hot tea, or maybe this is just something everybody else already felt, but I got super strong Madonna vibes in the beginning of this song as well. Now, it evolved out of that, and I forget about that by the time the song ends, but it definitely started off Madonna in my head.
Yeah, this definitely has a Vogue kind of feel to it. That's the one. And well, it's not the first Gaga song that's reminded me of Vogue, I will say that, but Vogue isn't a bad place to take from. I mean, I can't complain too much about anything that reminds me of Vogue.
Not at all.
So, yeah, that's really where I am. Alrighty, now we're a bit past our midway point of the album, and we are now at track number 10, which is, this is on the standard edition as well, Bad Kids. This song is different. It kind of starts off, you think it's autobiographical, and there is an allusion to that because in real life her parents are divorced. But it was actually inspired by stories that fans of hers told her when she was on the Monster Ball tour, where she undoubtedly got to meet a lot of people because that was a huge tour for her. It was her first time she got to play arenas, so she met a lot of different people out there, and this song really hits me in the feelings lyrically at times. It's like, oh, that's horrible that somebody told you that. like as a child. But she's kind of saying like, I love you even if you are a bad kid. They say you're a bad kid. Because you still have a good heart, and just like you're misunderstood, which I think does happen a lot in this society. I think sometimes kids who act out get labeled bad and we don't look to see the whole story. And I've been guilty of doing that before. Certainly when I was a student, I was guilty of that. But I mean, there were times I was labeled a bad kid, and it was like, no, I'm not actually. I just was trying to express myself. I didn't do it the best way, but I'm not bad. I promise I'm nice. But do I like the message of the song? Again, musically, I think it's a bit, it has a kind of nice disco-y vibe to it that I do like, but I think it's just a bit anemic musically. Like, I don't think it goes there in the way other songs here do.
Not in the least bit. For me, it seems empty compared to most of the compositions on this album. It almost feels, and I had this in my notes, it almost feels as an unfinished thought. You know, it ends abruptly, not so far as the narrative. Like you said, the narrative I can respect and understand, and it can hit you in the feels. But as far as musically, as far as this goes, no way. Now, I'm going to jump back here because I got ahead of myself. But if you have Bloody Mary go straight into this on the album without the track 9 that's on there, you know, the bonus track, you're in a lull, you're in a doldrum in this album. You know what I'm saying? That's why I have a hard time saying that these extra tracks are bonus tracks, because without them, for the most part, the album hits a really sad in the sense of weakness, like a very weak spot musically if you go track 8 and 10 back to back, in my opinion.
I mean, I don't think this should have been on the album to begin with. We have better songs literally sitting right there.
Heard.
Like, why was, if this is a bonus track if you're going to put it out.
Yeah, run Black Jesus straight into Fashion of His Love, and that makes sense.
I mean, yeah, I didn't need this at all on the album. And what's interesting though, I learned this looking into it. It originally had a very different sound to it, and even had a rap verse that was removed from it. So that does make me wonder, like, would it have been better in that regard? Like, I don't know, but as it is here, I'm not wild for Bad Kids. And that should have been a bonus track instead of the next song, which is a banger, Fashion of His Love. This was written as a tribute to fashion designer Alexander McQueen, and the bridge was taken from an unreleased song that she wrote called Earthquake with her DJ from her first era, Space Cowboy, who there are actually YouTube videos about his disappearance.
Oh, really?
Which I got into, but I did watch one of them. I was like, who knew somebody would dive into this? That's interesting, but they did it. But yeah, I've always thought this song was a fucking banger. This one just kind of makes you go off. It's got, like, this has a good beat. This is a club song. Like, this is a good dance tune, and it's not the deepest lyrically, but it's a fun, happy song. And it's definitely nice to hear that after friggin' Bad Kids and Bloody Mary, that's for sure. We need something a bit more uppity. It's just one of those, like, I saw a YouTube comment, like, I love those just really upbeat songs she does, like this and Stupid Love. Like, they're might not be the deepest, but they're some of her best, and I agree. I agree.
This song musically is all up there on top of the album, in my opinion. It has such a happy, elevated vibe, and it doesn't stop from start to finish. Without her putting McQueen or giving a shout out to McQueen in the lyrics, I originally thought this was an electro-Christian love song for Jesus. I'm not gonna lie. I really went down going through the lyrics like, is this really I mean, it could possibly be a love song for Jesus, and it fit with the religious tones that we've had on this album so far. You know, to find out what it was written for, I see, but I still think it might be a love song for Jesus. With that being said, it's phenomenal, man. Really great track, and it's a really high energy that needed to pop on this album, and it did its job 100%.
Yeah. I mean, this song, one of the main inspirations for it was one of our most godly voices, I guess you could say, the one and only Whitney Houston.
Heard that.
And I can definitely hear like the vibe of like, I want to dance with somebody in this. I totally can. Like, not exactly, but the general feeling of it, I think of that song is conveyed here.
I can definitely see that.
I would say, not that they sound alike. She does her own thing with it, but it has that kind of joy to it that I really appreciate. So yeah, Fashion of His Love, a winner, should have been on the standard edition of the album. And yeah, the Amazon people who bought it for 99 cents, they didn't get these bonus tracks. Isn't that a shame?
It is a shame.
It is
It also leads one to wonder if that had part of the reason why it was such a drop off by week 2. You know,
I mean,
someone should have let them know that those tracks were needed on this album.
Yeah, because yeah, maybe they turned it off after Bad Kids. They were like, "Oh, I'm done."
Yeah.
Though they shouldn't have, because this is on the standard edition, and this song's a fucking banger too. I've said that a lot today, but it's just is I'm just speaking truth here, people.
It seems between me and you, when we get into something that's like truly deeply rooted in our love for music, that word slips out quite a few more times than normal.
I mean, yeah, it is though. This is our 12th song. Highway Unicorn, parentheses, Road to Love. This was, again, when I first saw this track list, I thought, okay, how can a song called Highway Unicorn be good? That is one of the worst titles I've ever heard. It's gotta suck. So I didn't listen to this album until 2017. I actually bought it at a supermarket in Italy. I bought the CD of it.
All right, there you go.
And it was the standard edition of it, with the only bonus track was a remix of the title track.
Oh,
but
no.
I did discover the joy that is Highway Unicorn, and I'm so glad that I did, because this one, Gaga said it was about herself. She said it was about herself traveling on the road with nothing but a dream. So she is the Highway Unicorn, and the sound of it is just so powerful. Like those drums, the synths, it just pumps you up, and it starts off with a bang when she's singing, "We can be strong, we can be strong." You're like, I feel strong listening to this. Like, what? You're just immediately on the road to love when you hear this. And it just builds beautifully the whole way through. And even though it's like a dance pop song, I hear that rock vocal in her, like she, especially when she says, "We're gonna drink until we die." It's like, yes, we shouldn't. I'm like, I know I shouldn't do that, but I'm like, yes. Oh, this is another one I really want to hear live someday. I would love to hear this live. Yeah, this is very, very high up on my favorites on this album. It's not quite number 1, but it might be like number 2. I love this song a lot.
It's a great song. For me, this one sings a little bit more. I'm not going to repeat all the things you said, because you've surmised most of my notes on this song. But for me, it hits a little bit different, or a little bit more, because of its difference from the rest of the album. In my opinion, there's a lot that separates this. The album almost takes a turn in a different direction musically right here, and I loved it. It's a really neat track. It's a really neat take. It's a very, very cool composition. Very smart. The tempo is there, but the beat of the lyrics is so infatuating to me. It's a really well done. I can see why you want to see this live, though. Those drums, the live drums and the keys on this track, I would love to see this live. It makes sense. They add that extra life to it too, for me, on this track. That they elevate this track in a very big sense for me, those drums.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd just love to hear her sing this, because she'd get into it. You know, she'd get into it.
Yeah, she definitely would.
But interestingly, we're going to have the rock vibe in the title of the next song, but not the sound of it. Heavy Metal Lover, which doesn't sound anything like heavy metal. This is pure, like, just kind of 90s pop, dance pop kind of thing. But Okay, it's about a boyfriend of hers who loved heavy metal apparently, and it also contains references to how famous she is and orgies.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's here. Yeah, this is just another one of those songs. It's a strange song. It is, and all these things shouldn't go together, but for some reason for me, it all works, and I just love how weird and unique this song is. I've always really enjoyed this song ever since I heard it, actually. It was the final song recorded for the album, and I'm glad that they recorded it. I'm glad they included it here. I'm glad they knew that would be the right thing to do, because I think it's a really unique song that doesn't sound anything else like the rest of the songs here.
I agree with you that it doesn't sound much like the rest of the songs here. I'm not big on this one. And I'll tell you why. It seems like it's almost too easy of a target for her, especially through this empowering and religious vibe, or this thought pattern throughout the album. This sort of like blatant, I won't say blatant sex song, but it just the way this song lays out. Yeah, it just seems like too easy of a target, and that put me off on it a little bit. This song, I almost used the word filler for this one on this album, but the breakdown at 2:46 with the techno voice and the muted track phasing back in, it was cool. It just wasn't cool enough to make me love this one. This is not one. I'm not big on this one.
That's fair. I can definitely see this song not being for everyone. So,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't put it. It's not like you said you didn't like Highway Unicorn. Then I would have been pissed. But I'm not pissed. But anyway, we're going to move on. We're again in this different musical direction here with probably now the most rock influenced song on the album, Electric Chapel. She wrote and recorded this while on tour, and she said that it was about feeling safe, finding love. For some reason, this is a song a lot of people really like it. For some reason, it kind of it's a grower for me. This one's a grower, not a shower. And in a weird way, this is where it fits on the album musically, realistically. But I also think that it gets overshadowed by the songs surrounding it a bit, especially the two following it. It really does. And I think the two before it as well, especially Highway Unicorn. But I meant actually the two following it on the standard edition, to be clear. Not those two songs are like, those will lodge your head into your head no matter what. And yeah, I think this is a really cool song, but it's just not always been one I've gone back to a lot. I did find myself enjoying it more this week, and I'm glad that I did. Like, I found it stuck in my head at work today. And I'm glad I got to come around on this one a bit. But yeah, I don't know. It fits musically here, but I kind of wish it were earlier in the album so it had a chance to stand out a bit more.
I'm totally with you there. I think this late in the album, it suffers from exactly what you said. But as far as the song goes, I really love this one. I love the contrast of the guitar riff to the organ in the intro. And then I love how that guitar sound works throughout the whole entire track. It's a very, very unique composition, and it's a powerful composition. Unfortunately, it gets overshadowed and caught up in the jumble, I feel like, this late in the album. But as a standalone song, really, really well done song, musically and just the way it's presented. It's a really unique, fun song.
Yes, completely agree with you. And now we're on to our final bonus track of the album, The Queen. This one's a bit interesting. Gaga said that a lot of her fans think you have to sing this song because you are the queen. But she said, no, it's not really about me. She says it's about the gay fans of hers because they're such a large part of her audience. And that is true. I will say the Chromatica Ball, I don't think I've ever been in a space with as many gays as the Chromatica Ball.
Okay.
They weren't all there, but there were a lot of them there for sure. You could just tell.
Heard that.
You could just tell. But hey, that's who it's for, and that's a beautiful thing. So, this one, I think a lot of people think this is the weakest song on the album. I'd probably take it over Bad Kids, but I do think it's a bit cloying musically. It's definitely my least favorite of the bonus tracks here. I would say that. I think it's like okay. I don't love it. And it does sound kind of similar to another song later in the album that's a lot better than this one. I don't think that helps it either.
Yeah, I hear you. It definitely is my least favorite out of the bonus. I like this one because I feel somewhat of an evolution in her sound throughout it. It's a semi-powerful track. For me, I got Cher and ABBA vibes from it. I liked that about it. I didn't realize that she was referencing, nor did I care, but it's not like it's any message is slammed down your throat through this one. This is just like a cool, fun song. It's just not the best. And like you said, it does share some qualities with a song later on the album that really did it way better than what's here. But for what it's worth, it's a fun one. It's a cool one. I don't hate it. I definitely would take it over Bad Kids. And these bonus tracks had places on this album where some tracks on this album didn't have places on this album, you know?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And when we talk about dedicating it to fans, I'm going to put a trigger warning here. The story I'm about to tell is very, very sad, to put it lightly, but this did happen during this era, and I feel like I do have to mention it because I know about it. So in 2011, there was a guy on YouTube. His name was Jamie Rodemeyer. He was a 14-year-old gay teen who lived in Buffalo, New York, and Lady Gaga was his favorite singer. And he posted videos trying to give encouragement to other gay teens out there. Unfortunately, in September of 2011, Jamie hanged himself due to bullying at school. Yeah, to say that's sad is putting it lightly. It's a true tragedy, especially a 14-year-old. But Gaga, I do think this was very classy of her to do. She immediately after she heard about it, she dedicated Hair to him at a performance. But later on, not in the immediate aftermath of this, she at a couple shows on the tour for this album, she did a part of this song and said she was singing it for Jamie.
That's cool.
And in 2014, during the Buffalo stop of the Art Rave tour, his parents were in the audience and she did the same exact thing. And I think that was a really classy thing of her to do. And I mean, I'm kind of shocked his parents could have gone to the concert, but they did it. And that was a very, I think, honorable thing of her to do. And I do think it shows that even though she is a huge, huge star, I think she truly, genuinely cares about her fans very, very deeply. And to do something like that says a lot about her. And that was why I wanted to mention that the story itself is absolutely horrible. And you wouldn't, I hope it never, ever happens again, anything like that, ever again. But
yeah, super classy on her part, though. Yes. Very cool.
I did want to point that out about the song because I think it was very nice of her to do that. But on to a happier topic, as my mother would say. Not that we can get, it's hard to get sadder than that, though, but we're going to move on to something a bit more chipper. Our power ballad of the album, You and I. This one was produced by none other than Mutt Lange. We talked about him a lot on our Shania Twain Come On Over episode. If you haven't listened to that, do so, because that was another fun one we did. But he also produced for rock bands like AC/DC and Def Leppard. And that was kind of the vibe she was going for here. And this song even features a guitar solo from none other than Brian May of Queen. He even performed it with her at the VMAs, which is pretty awesome.
I'm geeking out over here because shame on me, but I missed the Mutt Lange on the producer. And usually I'm all over the producers. And the first note I have on this is Shania Gaga.
I mean, that's basically what it is. And, well, by this point, Mutt was divorced from Shania, so he had to go somewhere.
Heard that. I mean, it screams Shania for me. I love it. I love it. Gaga playing the piano on this, I love too. It's a lot of her naturalness. And you said it earlier, but sometimes when she gets away and does stuff like this, it seems to resonate more with me, at least. This is a guilty pleasure track for me. I would hope to think it's a guilty pleasure track for Gaga too. Because for me, it might not fit the vibe of this album, but I'm so happy that it's here because I I enjoyed the heck out of the song.
No, I think it definitely has a place on the album, even though it is like a pop rock ballad for sure. But it definitely has a place as the penultimate song here. I don't know where else you could have put it, but it is at a perfect place of it. But she just, as much as possible, is going for that raw live feel. She even actually said about her vocal on the song, she said, I had about 30 cigarettes and a couple of glasses of Jameson and just put a click track and sang my face off thinking we'd redo the vocals.
I love it. I love
They
it.
didn't redo the vocals, by the way.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God, because she sticks it.
Yeah, she really does. And interestingly, this song premiered live almost a year before the whole album did. She performed it at times on the Monster Ball tour. She performed it on TV. There was even a American Idol contestant who sang this song before it was released by Lady Gaga on this album.
Wow.
Which is pretty wild to think about. But yeah, when I first heard this on the radio, I loved it. I thought, okay, this is what I want to hear. Like, she can really sing. And again, it's that Shania Twain, Def Leppard kind of feel. I really gravitated to this song immediately. And I think quite a few other people who normally wouldn't have listened to Lady Gaga did. They like had to admit, like, I don't really like Gaga a whole lot, but You and I slaps. Like they didn't say that, but that was a consensus for a lot of people. And it was a hit. It made it up to number 6 on the Hot 100, and it did get a good amount of radio play. I do think over time, this song's, I think in some ways it's been a bit lost to time because Gaga's done big ballads since, like Million Reasons and Shallow, other songs off of A Star Is Born. And I think as a result of that, this one's just kind of been forgotten a bit, and it shouldn't be. And this is my most realistic request. Both of the times I've seen her, she didn't do this song live. I think you should change that for your next tour, Gaga.
You're gonna see this. I can feel it. This song's coming out.
It better.
Just put it out there in the universe. But yeah, I hope you hear this one because this deserves to be done live over and over and over again.
Yeah, she's done it every tour that I haven't seen, basically, is the gist I got.
Heard that.
She did it at the other tours. She did it in Vegas, but the ones I went to, nope. I could have used this at the Joanne tour, actually, not gonna lie. I would have gone off.
Yeah, this is a really cool song. I love it.
Yeah, it is. But I will say this. I think the video's stupid, by the way. It's kind of like she's trying to go for avant-garde imagery. And for this song, you don't need it.
No, because this, I'll say it again. When she transcends the avant-gardeness of her Lady Gaga character and image is some of the times where I connect the most. So don't try to put that on top of this. This is raw. This is your heart and soul, I would think, you know.
So she even performed it at the VMAs as one of her alter egos, Joe Calderone. A male alter ego. I'm glad it didn't last because the reason I didn't care for it was because she presented the VMA Vanguard Award to Britney Spears as Joe Calderone, and she just upstaged Britney, and that wasn't right to do when it was Britney's award to have. That's just not right.
Heard that.
Oh, shame on you, Joe Calderone. But fortunately, Joe has nothing to do with our final song on the album, The Edge of Glory. This song was inspired by her grandfather's death, which is interesting. The makes me think Edge of 17 was inspired by the death of Stevie Nicks' uncle. Edge of Glory is inspired by the death of Lady Gaga's grandfather. Something about edges and death just go together in pop music, I guess.
Heard that. That's a wild one to put together.
Yeah, it really, I thought of that though, because that's how I roll. And she said that it was about like her grandfather's final moments and her grandmother being there with him. And he realized like, I won, I got to be with you. And she was also inspired by the movie Rocky, which, okay, I can hear that in the song too. But yeah, this is the other song that Clarence Clemons is featured on the album. And you don't miss him here. That is for sure. And it actually was pretty poignant that he was, because this was one of his final recordings. He died in June of 2011, sadly. It actually, him performing this song with her on American Idol was his final performance.
Wow. I did not know. I knew he passed that year, but I did not know that it was with her on American Idol as the final.
Yeah, and that does make me a bit sad because he didn't really get to live through the success of this song because this was actually a really big hit. It was the first promo single for the album, but it got so many downloads, they said, oh, we need to make this a real single. Like, it needs the full treatment, and it got it, and they did a video featuring Clarence and her dressed in, like, her street attire. I remember one girl back in the day said she looks really slutty in the video for this song. And that was kind of the point. I think she kind of looked like a prostitute streetwalker, but it was that 80s kind of feel. You know what I mean? I felt like it was a scene out of St. Elmo's Fire or some shit.
Speaking of that, she cited Springsteen as an inspiration through this album, and not until here do I really get any Springsteen vibes. But this one has Springsteen in it for me. Whether or not it's Clarence rocking out throughout it, it seems to have that power, that storyteller power that Springsteen exudes. This is that jam, though. You can't get around this song. I could sit here and say genius this, genius that. I could say composition this, composition that, but this is a very, very prime example of how you end an album, and it shines.
Yeah, and even though I was the professed Gaga hater, I had to concede to the Edge of Glory. I said, nope, Edge of Glory is a great song. And I still think it's a great song. I always have. It's a powerful tune. That's really what it is. The lyrics are powerful. Her singing is powerful. The composition is powerful, especially that sax solo. The big man brought it for this one. And this was a huge hit. It was number 3 on the Hot 100. And I remember it being a hit throughout the summer. And that's why it makes me sad that Clarence didn't get to see all of its success.
Heard that.
But realistically, it should have gone to number 1. I'm going to say that now. This should have been a number 1 hit. 3 is not good enough.
You know offhand what was above it?
Not at the moment. It might have been like Party Rock Anthem or something, but
heard that.
That's my first guess. But not that that's not fun, but this should have been a number 1, and this is definitely held up, and I imagine it will continue to hold up. And interestingly, both times that I've seen her, she did a piano version of this song. Just her at the piano. And at the Chromatica Ball, I just really felt especially moved when she did it, because it just showcased the power of this song, even in that spare form. But she had a special message. The night I went to was in DC, so she felt obliged to make a political message. And she dedicated this song to every woman who has to worry about what to do when she gets pregnant now. And you could definitely, I'll say, feel her conviction when she performed the song right after saying that. And I think it was a really powerful moment. I will say that.
Had to be. Do you think there might be a little bit of homage to Clarence by not playing it with a full band anymore without him?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Just a thought.
I mean, you could just play that pre-recorded, put him up on the screen, I would think.
True. Hologramming.
Yeah. I mean, just play the video, play his part in it. That's what I would do. I would love to hear the full version live, because yeah, if you can't tell, I would gladly see Lady Gaga again live. She's an amazing performer, and if you haven't seen her, I recommend doing so. I'm going to say that now. She knows how to put on a show. I mean, I've been to a lot of shows. I would say Chromatica Ball's in my top 10 of all of them.
Heard that.
What a show. But yeah, Edge of Glory. What a song. A glorious song. Pun intended and not intended, because it's the best way to describe it. And there we have it, Born This Way, ending out our doll month. Wow, what an album. What an album.
What a pick. Thank you guys. That was super fun to go through.
Yeah, definitely. Now I have to ask, what is your grade for the album?
So again, taking what I know of Gaga out of my critical listen to this, from front to back, this album hit on so many different levels of energy, levels of exploration musically, levels of a look into religion. And even though it does have its missteps, in again, in my opinion, where some of the tracks might not have needed to be on this album, while other bonus tracks I think would have been strong choices for those spots, it really does speak to the Gaga-ness of her sound, of her message, and it stands strong. A lot of these songs are still iconic songs for her, and it has made it through the test of time. For that, I'm giving this one a B+.
I have the exact same grade. We coalesce again. How nice. Yeah. I do think there is some filler on the album, but for me, the highs are very, very high. And I do really love this album. I'm actually wearing my Lady Gaga Born This Way shirt right now that I got a couple years ago.
There you go.
Because they released it in honor of the album's 10th anniversary. And yeah, I may not have been here for it when it was released, but I'm glad that I got to it eventually, and I'm glad it's a part of my life. I think this is a beautiful album, and everyone should listen to it at least once, I think.
Most definitely. I thought you were going to come in a little higher. I'm not going to lie.
I thought I was too, actually. I really did. But then I listened to some of them and was like, oh, I remember why I skipped this song before. But yeah, the songs I love a lot.
I definitely agree. What was your favorite track on this album?
The Edge of Glory. I mean,
heard that.
It's the Edge of Glory. That's all I can say. It's a perfect song, in my opinion.
Maybe it's the subconscious listener. Maybe it's the guilty pleasure of it all. Maybe it's Dean Martin's Mambo Italiano and the start of it. But Americano is my track off this album.
Really?
I love that song, boy. I played that song more than any song on this album this week. There's so many different reasons why, but the musicality of that song hits me in a way I cannot describe.
Oh, that one's on the lower end of my list, actually. So it shows you there's something for everyone on Born This Way.
That's true. That is definitely true.
But that does end our journey with this album and our look at this doll month. I think this was a fun thing to do. I didn't plan on it, but thanks once again to the iconic doll cast and Sage for having me on and inspiring us to do this. It was a lot of fun and definitely something a bit outside the box for us.
Most definitely. And we got to do the Beatles this month for the first time.
That too. That
was awesome.
That too. But for the next month, if you have been listening for a bit, you might know March we did a month based around one album, which in that case was Harry's House, because we got more than one request to do it. And it's a hot album right now, so we went off with it, and we had a lot of fun doing it. It was a great way to think outside the box once again, and do stuff we wouldn't have thought of doing before, I don't think, necessarily. So we're going to do another month like it for this upcoming month of May, and that is because I'm very excited to say this. On May 13th, I will be attending a performance of Taylor Swift's The Eras Tour in Philadelphia. To say I'm excited is an understatement. And we both decided, well, we gotta tie this in because this is the musical event of the year, period. It's news everywhere, this Eras Tour. But the question was, what album do we tie it in with? And Cory wisely suggested Folklore. And that ended up being smart because she performs quite a bit of Folklore on the Eras Tour, and I'm very excited to hear these songs, and it's a good album. But we won't be starting the month off with Folklore because we want to talk about it after I've been to the concert, of course, because that's just more fun that way. So we're going to kick this concept month off with an album that I feel influenced Taylor Swift's Folklore, produced by one of the main collaborators, Jack Antonoff. The album we will be doing is Lana Del Rey's 2019 release, Norman fucking Rockwell. And that's the full name of the album. I just want to put that out there. That is the album's actual name. It is an album about art and the American dream. And I am excited to get into it because it's got some wild stuff on it, but some beautiful stuff too.
It definitely does. Just a payoff to our longtime listeners. This was the secret that Charlie had to sit on for the past 2 months that I alluded to. Just if you guys could see his face when he couldn't tell you what we were about to do, but a a month of searching around the different inspirations for folklore, and to cap it off, you get to see the good old Taylor Swift doing her thing on the Eras tour. This is going to be a fun one. I can't wait to go through this one.
Oh, most definitely. But while you're waiting for that, you have to stay up to date with us, of course. So follow us on social media at Turntables and Tea Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, at Turntables Tea on Twitter, and also subscribe and rate us wherever you're listening to us. We are on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can find us on any of them. So please listen and tell your friends about us, so we get more people to listen to us, because that's what we would appreciate. We would love it if you get even more people, because we love all of you, but we want to reach everybody and engage with all of you. Beautiful people out there.
Spread the love.
That is what we will do. And we'll be spreading some of that love next week with Lana Del Rey, and I'm very excited to be doing it. So in the meantime, hope may be a dangerous thing for a man or a woman like you to have, but at least you have it and you can hold on to it until next time.
Peace.